Hi, everybody. I'm Tamara Zoner.
And I'm John Davis.
Welcome to Spirit Cafe.
Come in, sit down, and
Grab a cup of love.
a Spirituality Without the Guilt podcast.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Spirit Cafe 1 year anniversary. It has been 1 year since we have started this crazy conversation, and we are so happy that you are here to join us today. I am John Davis, and it is a pleasure and an honor to be here this day with you fine people. But I am most honored and most excited to introduce to you my amazing sidekick, not even a sidekick, my partner in crime, haha, I said it, Tamara, my cohort in compassion, the lovely and powerful Tamara Zoner. Welcome, Tamara Zoner, to the show. Hello, Tamara.
Thank you, John.
A year. It's been a year.
Can you believe it?
It seems like yesterday we started this thing.
I know, it does. And I, yesterday, was like, are we sure we want to do this? But okay.
Yeah, I know. Same. It was like, okay, what do you think about this? What do you think about it? And then we talked about it. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so cool that we've gotten, this will go up as season 2, episode 1. And so this is our 53rd episode live for the podcast, and I'll download this and make this the podcast episode for this week. So
Okay.
it'll be kind of fun and exciting. So thank you for being my partner in this, because it's so, I think it's so great being able to have someone who I enjoy talking to, who I feel like we can just talk about anything without any judgment or any of that. You know, we talk about the no guilt or dogma of religion, and I love the fact that you and I can pretty much talk about any topic here, and there's never any argument. It's just a conversation. It's just fun and easy. And thank you so much for being Tamara Zoner, because you're pretty special.
Thanks, John. That was awfully sweet. I love that, too, that we really do have conversations, and it probably helps that we have a lot of similar views, but when we do gently disagree, it's respectfully. And I think that is really what the world needs more of. We're going to disagree. We're a bunch of human beings with our own thoughts and minds and opinions. And if we could just work a little more respect back into the conversation, then we can have disagreements without disliking each other.
I agree. I think that we're at a place in this world where it seems like we've come to a space in this world where everybody's opening up to much more inclusiveness, and I love to see it in the world in general. But I really do see it in the conversations we have here, and even with the guests we've brought on. We've brought in some great guests this year. I mean, great guests.
We have.
It's been really exciting. You know, I think back and I think of Justin Caffrey and Hema Vyas and, you know, Celtic Tarot Sheila, you know, and all of them. There's so many we've had, and they've all been great. I mean, we've had a couple that were just over the top great too. You were just amazing, you know, and others that were just spectacular in other ways, you know. So we've seen it from all different angles. It's been just lovely. Just lovely. So,
and
go
it's
ahead.
fun too for me with some of the guests. It was the first time they've ever done a podcast, and so that was pretty fun because I think, and people tell us that we're so welcoming and so easy to talk to that it makes me happy to provide this space for someone new to podcasting to step out, you know, into the light a little bit more and share their gifts with our watchers and listeners and watchers, viewers.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. I think we've created a safe space for people to step out onto a bigger platform.
Yeah, I think that's what we do both in our individual work and together in this podcast. We both create safe spaces for people to show up as more of themselves.
Yeah. Has the podcast open your eyes to other ways of outreach or other means of doing your business, doing your work, doing your spiritual journey?
Yes, it has. In fact, because we've talked to so many mediums and psychics in the past, year, but really in the last 6 months or so when we started bringing on guests, it opened me up to my own intuitive gifts much more, which I was like, those belong in a little box right there. And, sometimes they show up and work a little and sometimes they don't. But with all of the very gifted guests that we've had, I've opened more to that, and even to try to practice it a little bit more, whereas before it's like, no, let that come naturally. And I've learned Reiki in this last year and started offering Reiki, and then, viewers reach out and ask, hey, do you do this or that? Yes, I do. So it definitely has opened the way that I work with people to a bigger way of being.
One of my favorite moments on one of our shows was the remote viewing episode, where I threw you into it, like into the deep water, and then it was so funny because you were seeing woods and you were seeing a circus tent, and I was like, circus tent? Well, I guess. And then, like 2 days after the episode, I realized that where I was camped, right outside of the woods, right on the other side, was literally a circus tent where elephants were living, because they were for the elephant rides for the Renaissance Festival that I was working at. But you were literally seeing the circus tent, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And it was cool because you were seeing it and I wasn't remembering it. So you were literally seeing it, which was two things were happening. You were not only seeing the place, but you were seeing a different time. You were literally seeing. So you've really opened up to a different perspective in a very big way. It's been very cool to watch.
That was very cool to experience because I had never tried anything, and you did literally spring that on me. And
I'm shifty that way.
And you were just like, just go with it. Just go with it. And I'm like, well, okay, because I don't believe anything I'm thinking, but tell you. So to have it so close to correct was amazing. And then for you to come back and be like, oh yeah, there was that circus tent. That was really cool.
And I think that's one of the keys that you and I talk about on this podcast, is the idea that the spirituality doesn't have to be difficult. It's right there. It's right there in your present moment. And it's like you just step into it, just go with it, right? And you find what you feel is true. It's great.
Yeah, and we're inviting others to be more open to their own beliefs and gifts. And if I can just randomly try this, remote viewing, anybody can. And we all have, we talk about the guests that we have brought on that have gifts, and they are gifted mediums or gifted psychics, but every single one of us is gifted. And spirituality really is about tuning into that greater aspect of ourselves, the one that's connected to everyone else and all things and the yada yada and all that jazz.
The big yada yada. So I love that we coined that as well. God, universe, yada. There's so many different words for the source, the universe, God. Yeah. I just love the fact that we started saying yada yada, because that to me is hysterical. Right?
Me too. It makes me laugh every time, and I am often telling stories about our podcast where I'm like, well, now we just call it the yada yada. So.
the yada yada, because it's all inclusive, right? That's so great. Yeah. It's so great. Is there anything that stands out to you for this year as a singular thing?
Oh.
It's a tough question, I know.
It is a tough question. That's a big question. I think the singular thing is a collective of the comments and the feedback that we've received from viewers, because we now have, and I am going to humbly say this, some raving fans who always show up, who always comment. I mean, Jenny Brown is one of them, right?
Jenny Brown, my neighbor, lives right down the street.
Shout out to Jenny Brown. She's always there and so encouraging. And so I would say that our audience and seeing that grow and feeling the community of this audience is by far the most powerful part of this for me, because that's what I do in life, right? I connect, and you too. We connect, and together we're connecting with each other and with others and creating this community. And for me, that's so beautiful to create, like we said earlier, this safe space where people can explore their spirituality without feeling judgment and without feeling fear, and to simply be able to go, oh, there are people who believe different things, and here are people who believe all sorts of different things, and they're really loving about it. I want everyone who watches us and who listens to us to feel embraced.
Right. And that's I think that's what you do in general. I mean, you seem to just embrace everybody when you walk into a room. As I said many times, it's getting boring that I'm saying it. You walk into a room and you change a room. You really affect the room as you walk in. And I think that you do that very naturally, and you do that very I think it's just Tamara Zoner. I think that's all it really is. So, so shall we open this thing up to some questions, or is there anything else you'd like to say?
Sure, but first you have to answer that same question. What about you?
Same question?
Yeah.
Let me think. There's been so many. I would say that Justin Caffrey was big for me. That guest. I mean, that was a big episode for me. When I listened to that episode, I'm very, I had already interviewed him on a different podcast, and when I brought him on here, it was another level for me. So that, and as far as for me and opening up to our audience, I would say our audience is absolutely why we do it. I mean, it's the only reason we do it is for the audience itself. And when I look at the effect that I see in our comments, that's huge, because that's why you and I both do what we do is to help people go to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to open it up to questions. It's 12:12, so it's time. So it's time to open it up to questions. So if you have any questions, or if you'd like to make any comments that we can comment off of, please feel free. Did you of our episodes? Did you have a favorite episode? Is there topics that we have not touched on that you think we should touch on? Is there topics that really rang true to your heart? Let us know and ask any questions you have. And you can ask about either one of us and what we're going through in this moment right now. We will tell you or not, depending on what we want to share. So ha ha ha.
Although we are pretty open books.
Pretty open books. I mean, right now I'm in the middle of a 40-day water fast, and I'm doing it a video a day. I'm actually putting out a video a day, sharing it. And I put out my weigh-in video. I'm officially, including prep and this week, I'm 23 pounds down. I lost 14 pounds this week and 9 pounds the week before. So kicking butt.
Feeling good. I'm still surprised by this water fast feeling good thing, because I feel like if I were to water fast, I would feel bad fast.
Yeah. What you want to answer Jenny's question? Who came up with the idea of Spirit Cafe?
Well, I feel like we did. We were chatting, and John had interviewed me for a former podcast that he used to do.
Gone now. Got rid of it.
Yeah. And we had so much fun talking and discovering a little bit of our shared spiritual beliefs, both of us recovered Catholics, and that all came out in that conversation. And the other thing that came out in that conversation, well, it came out later, that John forgot to hit record. So, so we had this amazing, an hour, 45 minutes, and then he messaged me, hey, I didn't hit record. And I was like, cool, we get to talk again.
It was very, very good. I enjoyed both conversations immensely.
Me too. And so then it was very much a synchronicity that was occurring, because just recently a couple of my friends had said, hey, have you thought about podcasting? And I've been doing some Facebook Lives, and they're like, you should think about podcasting. And then John interviewed me, and that was my first podcast interview.
Oh, really?
Ever.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
finding out all
And I
kinds
mean,
of
I had
things.
only just started doing my business full time a couple of months prior. And so that you were my first podcast interview. And then we had so much fun. And it just was like podcasting was coming at me, right? And you know by now, when I get these messages, I listen. Okay, I hear it. I'm going to listen. And then you're like, we should do a podcast. And I said, okay.
Yeah, and
So
you did. You
you
said
know,
it instantly. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I had already had the messages, so here's the door opening. I'm going to step through. That's what I do. That is what I have learned to do in this life. So that is really, in my view, how it came to be.
It's the same exact thing with me. I it's exactly how it went, and I remember you just saying, "Yes, okay, let's do it." I was like, then I was like, "Oh crap, what did I just do?" There goes a whole bunch of my hours, but it was good.
But haven't they been fun hours?
Oh my God, Tamara, I look forward to it every time we record. I literally do. I laugh with you. I just enjoy being with you and talking about cool things that I love to talk about. So let me jump over and get into another question here.
Okay.
Sin says, "Oh, how do you do a live stream while fasting? It must be super." Actually, the interesting thing about fasting in general is when you get to the stage that I'm in right now, you have more energy than you ever did in your life. You're running on ketones, so your brain's clearer. You're moving through. I'm cleaning parts of my house that I never knew existed, because I'm like moving and I have so much energy all the time now. And it's great. You know, when you're overweight like I am, and you start something like this and it starts losing that weight, that also lightens you up as well. But I have tons and tons of energy right now. Let's see. Do animals have the same kind of souls that people do? Tamara Zoner.
Ooh, tossing that my way, huh?
You
know, I say yes. Simple answer is yes, because I believe. So here's a belief that I don't know where this came from. This is something my sister and I talked about when we were really little, and we were talking about how the stuff we were learning at church didn't really make sense, but here's what we thought. And we started talking about reincarnation and how we felt like humans, after our spirit ends this particular physical package, then we take a break in the body of an animal. So between human lives, we go into an animal to kind of reset, forget, and relax. So, like, it's for some animals, right? I imagine myself as a house cat. To have this like nice, easy life for a little while, so you can reset, renew, regenerate, and then you go in. So I think that our spirits and our souls can inhabit any living being at all. And in fact, Buddha said the same, right? You can come back as an ant or a flea or whatever, and the way that you live your life may determine your next one.
Right. I had a 110-pound Rottweiler that was the biggest lap dog in the world. His name was Odin, and Odin was brilliantly smart. And I mean, to give you an example of how smart this dog was, I actually taught this dog. Here's the story. I'd walk into a room, and as I walked in the room, I would just snap my finger and point straight down. And wherever I pointed, he would sit. And I'd go over to the other side of the room, and he would sit there and just stay there. And I'd start talking to somebody, and then I'd reach down, and with the side of my hand, I'd just tap the side of my leg. And my 110-pound Rottweiler would start a full charge across the room straight at us. And halfway across the room, I'd go, BAM! And he'd die, and he'd fall and flop on his side, right? And then I'd go over to him, and I'd look at him, and I'd pull out a treat, and I'd lay it on the side of his face, and I'd walk away, and he'd lay there. And then I'd look back and say, okay, and then he'd throw it in the air, spin, and catch it, right? But he was so smart. He was such a smart dog, right? And smart. Now, that was something I taught him to do. Now, the first time he saw a toddler in the same room, you know, a lot of dogs will run up to a toddler to see what it is. my 110-pound Rottweiler dropped on his belly and inched over to him. Right. So this is how smart this dog is. I believe that everything that we're living in is an illusion anyway. And if there is any sort of consciousness at all, then yes, it's same coming from the oneness of all. And when I look at animals, I see absolutely. And in fact, I would think that most animals are vibrating higher than humans, because most animals love unconditionally. My dog loved me unconditionally, no matter what I did, no matter where I was, no matter what color shirt I had on. He loved me unconditionally. So most empathic people tend to go towards animals because of that unconditional love that they can feel. And so I would say absolutely they have souls. And then this gets us into the other argument of, vegetarian or not, right? And but I also believe in eternal life, because I've been out of body. I've experienced the other side. And so I know that this body is an illusion, just a vehicle. And so, it comes up to a different thing. And then I think of the Native Americans who, thank the buffalo for their food and their clothing. So I think that there's a bigger picture to it. And yes, I believe we're all one, including the animals. Let me jump back up here and go back to some of the ones.
Look, a Spirit Cafe weekend camping trip.
That'd be interesting.
A road show. That would be fun.
That would be fun. And Cheryl, if you're ever near Michigan, Tamara already does meetup groups. So if you ever want to touch up with Tamara, you can do that. And someday I'll show up to one of those. I'll find out when it's going to happen.
Before you move back over to the East Coast.
That's the goal, baby. Back to the beach. Back to the beach. Let's see. What are our Spirit Cafe plans for moving forward? Guests, topics. The interesting thing about that question is, Tamara and I wing this whole thing. Right? We totally wing this whole thing. We're like, is there a guest we can think about? Okay, yeah. Or we now are on this wonderful platform called Podmatch, and where guests come to us sometimes, and yep. So that's great. But when you we wing this whole thing. A lot of times, what do you want to talk about this week? And we just, okay, we'll talk about that. And we just go on and talk. Nothing is ever pre-planned. Nothing is ever pre-scripted. It's always on the cuff. And even with our guests, we don't pre-plan, pre-script anything, because we think the genuine conversation is more interesting than something that's pre-planned or preset questions or any of that stuff. Let us know what you think. Do you think that the conversational style is better than something pre-planned or scripted? Let us know. Does that work for you, Tamara?
Yes, absolutely. I love the way that we come in. I mean, we know a little bit about our guests depending on which one of us invited them. And it's during the conversation that we get curious and those authentic questions arise. And that's how I like to work it. I'd like to just be present and listening to the guests and learning about their experience, and not have this like predetermined set of questions that will take us, it keeps taking you back to a point instead of allowing it to simply flow. We like to be in the flow.
I agree. Oh, I see Cheryl has already met you, Tamara.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Conversational is great. I think that when you bring someone on who's uncomfortable for their first time doing a podcast, I think that it's always better to just come at them like a friend and treat them like a friend. Yeah. And the more
we're just two people having coffee, chatting about spirituality.
Right. Well, now water.
Well, yeah, now water.
Now
I
water.
have both.
You drink enough coffee for both of us. That's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it, that's why I like to get on a little early, talk with them, joke with them, and then get them laughing, getting them feeling comfortable with what they're about to do with us, and let them know that we're here to promote them as well as doing a cool show. So I think it's good. Yeah. So somebody just said something and I can't see it yet, so I will in a second. I like going with the flow. Great approach. Yeah, thanks, Donna.
Thanks,
that's great.
Donna.
Yeah. I enjoy the way we do it because my my recording Spirit Cafe is the best laughs I get. I mean, I laugh so hard with doing them, so it's just fun, that I enjoy very much.
Definitely a bright spot in my day, and I think when we first began, I thought, how are we going to do this every week? We're going to run out of things to talk about. But we do not run out of things to talk about.
We don't.
Sometimes we come in, honestly, viewers, sometimes we come in going, what are we talking about today?
And we go, I don't know, what with this? Okay.
And it always works out. And those are some of the best episodes, in my opinion, because we'll just have a spark of an idea, and then we talk about it organically on the show as we're recording. We've never talked about it before. We're just exploring what one another thinks about this particular topic, and it's really fun and expansive.
Yeah, and what's cool about those episodes is we also get the chance to say, well, I'm going to say this, and what do you think about this approach? What do you think about this angle? And get your opinion on that. I think that's always good. Linda G. I have reached out to her before, but she's never responded, so she must be very busy. How do you find your guests? Do people listen to the show and give you ideas on who to have on? Actually, right now we're finding a lot from Podmatch people. We also found some from knowing them. Our very first guest was Holly Matson, who did that cool Reiki thing on my channel. And she does Reiki for animals. And so that was our first. And then that was somebody that I've known for years. And actually years ago, for many of you know that many years ago, I used to speak spiritually all over the country. And Holly was my sidekick, my person who handled all the scheduling and all the stuff like that. So it was kind of cool to have her step into her own spiritual path as well. Also, the other way is Podmatch. Has Podmatch been good for us? I mean,
it keeps the guests rolling. So I haven't said yes to everyone who's reached out to us, and we have a couple in queue now for future episodes coming up soon. It's been a good resource, though, and there are a lot of really interesting people. But we both know a lot of interesting people, too. So, like Claire, another pet psychic, in fact, was one of our early guests. And then my friend Carmen, who talked about Reiki and a bunch of other cool stuff, because she's just a very cool human. She's a friend I knew in high school, but wasn't really close to. I'm much closer to her now, in fact, that we've gotten to know each other again as adults, and we're both on a similar path. So it's very cool. Podmatch, Donna, is a website. And John introduced me to Podmatch, and it was where I started getting interviews on other people's podcasts. And that's been so great and so fun. And they're not huge, giant podcasts with like billions of viewers. Some of them are smaller, like ours is for now. And it's just a wonderful way to get to know people. And then they're like, oh, you should talk to this other person. And they connect you and connect you and connect you and connect you. And it's really a delightful resource.
Yeah. So it says, somebody said, what is Podmatch? So podmatch.com is a platform where podcasters and podcast guests can get together. Now, you can go on there as a guest and search for a podcast to go on, or you can be a podcast host and find guests that go on. And it's a great platform. And to give you an example, my last year of doing corporate work, I did over 100 podcasts in 6 months on that platform. And it was just going on there and finding podcasts to go on and sending out information. So it's the best platform I've ever seen for finding podcasts to go on and podcast guests as well.
Light language. What's that?
I have no idea what light language is, so I would love to have somebody.
Maybe we have to have you, Sin.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you know somebody that you could recommend, we would love to hear that.
Yeah.
Light language. That's interesting.
Yeah. So we've had mediums, psychics, channelers, which all kind of are a similar thing. Reiki people, pet psychics. Who haven't we had? What haven't we had? What haven't we had?
We've had a Buddhist and we've had a Hindu with Justin and Hema. I would love to get a shaman, like a real Native American shaman, to come on. Now I know a guy who I call him the biker shaman, but because he looks like a biker, and he taught me some of my earliest work of moving energy. So, but I don't think he's really available. There's so many people that I've wanted to come on this show from my past. There's one woman who was a certified ARE, Association for Research and Enlightenment. For you guys who don't know what that is, that's the Edgar Cayce Foundation. She was one of the few certified psychics that the Edgar Cayce Foundation would recommend. And she's basically semi-retired now. And I have asked her, because she was one of the ones who told me about my specific past life. And I called up for the interview, and she says, "Oh, my God, I know who you are," before I even set up the interview, the appointment.
Of course he did.
Oh, my God, just insane. But yeah, there's been so many people I've wanted to come on, and I'd like to get a Native American shaman on.
That'd be cool.
I want to stay away from like dogmatic religion people. Like I thought Ken Wilcox last episode.
Amazing.
He's a sweetheart of a guy too. I mean, just a nice guy to talk to. He just lovely and had some great things to say and he told me a wonderful story about a young boy in his neighborhood who was a troublemaker, right? But he realized, the kid was always out in the street doing something, but his dad was always screaming at him. And Ken realized that this kid needed some positive reinforcement. So Ken, walking his dog one day, saw a little boy. He says, "Hey, I saw the kid." I wouldn't say he was a little boy. I don't know, probably a teenager. He says, "Hey, I've been noticing you on that skateboard. You're getting really good." And so sort of giving him all the positive reinforcement. He said he never saw a child puff up so much in that moment. He says, because I don't think he was getting it at home. I think that's such an important thing, is to go through life, but recognize you're not alone, and the people around us are going through stuff too, and to recognize when someone needs a positive reinforcement. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a store and seen a woman or a man, or let's say woman on this one, so a woman behind the counter who's just not in a good mood, and I'd say, "Gosh, your hair's lovely today." And she go, "Thank you," and you see her pop up and perk up, because she hasn't heard a positive thing all day, right? Yeah. And I walked in the other day, and a woman had like blue hair and really in this really funky style. I said, "Love that hair." I would probably go with like more of a pink, but it's good. I like it. Right.
I think you totally rock the pink.
Yeah, like a pink scalp. Dye the top of it.
Everybody needs a little positive reinforcement throughout their day. I do that a lot with parents when I see them in stores. The other day I was picking up a prescription, and this gentleman was working out whatever the insurance issue was with his two kids, probably 5, 6, in that range. They were little, but not little. And they were rambunctious. And I was thinking back to when my kids were that age and how I would have felt so stressed that they were jumping all around in public and being kids, which now doesn't stress me out anymore. And he was like, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." And I was like, "That's okay. I have some too." This is what kids do. And they're fine. Like, they're not offensive. They're not misbehaving. They're simply being kids. And I think the more we go out and spread our light into the world, and in these super basic common human experiences, like being at the grocery store or at a pharmacy or wherever we are, to just say, "Hey, it's cool, it's good, you're doing great, everything's fine." And instead of that, like, "Oh, I wish these darn kids would be quiet," we all relax a little bit. It'll be a kinder, more loving place.
Right. This quote here from this comment from Sugar Mama. My memory on Facebook today it was a year ago, brought me to tears. What a difference a year makes. Happy today, right? That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful that you yourself have seen the transition that you're making. It's such a joy to hear someone say they've gone from a time of tears and sorrow to a time of happiness and joy, because the tears and sorrow really are just a fear of a loss of love of some kind, and in my opinion, in my belief, and I think that you've come to a place today where you can be happy and express yourself. That's wonderful.
So wonderful. It's all about baby steps, in my opinion. So many of us think we want this change in our lives, and we have to have it now, and it has to be this giant leap. But really, it's the tiny little actions that you take every single day to support yourself that makes the big change, so that you can look back a year later and say, wow,
right.
I've really made a difference. It's baby steps, my friends.
Yeah. Adonna says, as I've read your podcast, my strong emotion is I knew it. That, to me, is one of the coolest things that I've been experiencing over at John of New as well as here, is that you and I talk, and it sounds like stuff that people already knew. They already experienced. It's like they're resonating with it. And that's what I think this change that's happening in humanity right now, I think we're all coming to a universal truth. And I think when we come to that universal truth, people start to say, well, I knew that, or I think I knew that, or this resonates with me. This makes so much more sense.
Right.
It feels right. And to me, that's the coolest thing. That's the coolest thing, is that we're all coming onto the same page, and we're all raising up to a different level, I believe.
I believe too, and I think that level is love. We talk about it a lot on the podcast. It's all about love.
Amen.
If we can be in love, then what we talk about, because we're talking about it in a state of love and openness and expansiveness, it makes sense to people because it's not restrictive. It's open. It's all that is. It's that deeper, higher wisdom and knowledge that I think is just coming through the two of us when we chat together, or when we chat on our own channels, John of New or Tamara Zoner. And we're talking about this all the time, and ultimately it is love.
Yeah,
that's what you're resonating with. That's what you know.
It's exactly right. That's what you know. We all come here from a place of unconditional love, and we're going to go back to that place later on. But when you're here, you're constantly looking for that unconditional love. And when you find places that are resonating with more love, then you're attracted to it. And I think that's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to say. Resonate is a good word, because I think it is vibrational. It's a resonance, and I think it's wonderful.
Oh, Jenny, that is so gorgeous.
Oh,
Jenny says, what's great about the two of you is that you have taught me how to love myself and other people. I have definitely grown over the last year. Yay! That's my whole mission in life, is to help people give and receive love to a greater extent. And as Jenny knows, because she's on my channel too, that everything, in my opinion, starts with our relationship with ourselves. So if we're not being loving to ourselves, it's virtually impossible to be loving toward others and to receive love from others, because it's closed. We have to open to a loving relationship with ourselves, and that includes Source, or the yada yada. And that way we can give love and receive it, because we know that we're worth it. And if we don't know that we're worth it, we're just walking around scared or angry. And you're all worth it, my friends. And maybe you're here listening to us or watching us because somewhere deep inside of you, you know it. And you just need a reflection.
Sin, I have no idea whether St. Valentine was a Catholic saint. I'm not big on the Catholic saints because there have been so many of them. And sainthood itself is strictly a Catholic thing. And I kind of walked away from my Catholicism a long time ago. So I would assume so, since they call him St. Valentine, right? So, but I can't honestly say that I know that or not. Jenny Brown, let's go back to that comment. Jenny Brown told me a lovely story about going to the convenience store and just choosing to go in there with a smile on her face. And she ended up having like all these compliments and all these things come back at her just because she walked into the place lovingly. And to me, that was Jenny is a great example of living a loving life. Is just going out there and realizing it's not something that's going to happen. It's something that is happening. It's here and now. It's the I am moment, not the I will be moment. And so you got to get into this here and now, just going, I'm going to smile today. I'm going to give somebody a compliment. I'm going to hold the door for somebody. I was walking out of the post office the other day, and as I walked out, I could see this elderly woman walking up with a package in her arm, and I spun right around and I went right back in, and I opened all the doors for her all the way in. And she said, "So, well, thank you, thanks." She was shocked that somebody would do it for her, because I think that there's in the world lately there's been not a lot of that, and I think that just looking at people and saying that person could use a hand. Do they need it? Probably not. Maybe not. But could they use it? Would it be easier for them? Sure. Mm-hmm. So you just do it. Mm-hmm. You just do the loving thing. You know, that to me is awesome. Mm-hmm. I agree. Catholic priest asked me
more love. That's beautiful.
A Catholic priest asked me what a nice Catholic girl like you was doing married to a Baptist. Isn't it confusing? I replied to my father is an atheist and my mother is Irish Catholic. I live confused. Well, see that's the thing about Christianity in general is once Jeshua became the Son of God and higher and above all us, all other religions were wrong. But then what happened was it split off into different sects of Christianity, and then they all started saying, "Well, my way's right and your way's wrong," and so my mother. I remember overhearing a conversation one time. I was dating a Greek Orthodox girl. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought she was beautiful and fun. I enjoyed hanging out with her. She was cool. And then one day I heard my mom talking to somebody else. Well, John's dating a Greek Orthodox girl. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even know, because I was like, I'm dating her. I'm not dating a Greek Orthodox person. I'm dating her. So that was interesting.
Well, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny because it just highlights the divisiveness, Like we're separate. And we talked about this early on in our first podcast where we started exploring our own beliefs and where they came from and why we call ourselves recovering Catholics. And one of the reasons for me was that I remember going to elementary school and looking around at my friends who I knew weren't Catholic and feeling like, oh, that's too bad for them. Like, they don't get to go to heaven or they don't get to go where I'm going to go because they're not the same religion as me. And then as I got older and, my brain developed and I could think for myself, I thought, no, this is not for me because this isn't love. This doesn't make sense to me. If only certain religions get to go, on to something better, that cannot be true. That did not resonate, to use that word again. And, we were both on Sheila's channel the other day, and one of the questions she asked was about something about, like, what do you believe about spirituality? What will happen? What about that higher power? What is that? And my belief is that your belief is what will happen for you.
Right.
So believe something good.
Yeah. Why create crap, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm always telling my clients, you get to make whatever meaning you want in life. So you might as well make the meaning good. Right? If I can believe that it's a loving universe or a universe that's against me, which one is supportive? Which one feels good? If I can believe that everything happens for me or everything happens to me, which one feels better? It's certainly that everything happens for me, and then life's full of good, beautiful meaning and growth.
Right. Sin says if you believe it, you will see it. But here's the interesting thing about that I want to talk about is most people don't realize that they already are the creator of their experience. They have given up to their subconscious beliefs a lot of the creative power, though, because we spend 85 to 90% of our day on our subconscious mind. And so when you start to realize that you are creating, it makes it much easier to create what you want. And so I often talk about the idea where that you have to start paying attention to what you're saying about your present moment, because you only have the one moment to create anything. And so you have to start paying attention to what you're actually saying, because your thoughts that come with belief are creative. You know, Shakespeare said, words without thoughts never to heaven go. Well, your subconscious beliefs are beliefs, and they are creating. So you've got to break that subconscious cycle and get into this. I'm going to step into the I am moment, the God moment, as I call it, the I am moment. Step into the God moment and co-create with God, with yada yada, and really go out there and step into the power. Someone said to me today, he said, I've been praying for more connection to Source and asking for more connection to Source and asking for. I said, well, if you've asked multiple times, it means you don't have faith. Because I am this. I am living this. I'm creating this. And most people don't realize when they say, I am tired, the next thing they're going to do is yawn. Or I am hungry, the next thing their stomach's going to growl. I am energetic. I am happy. I am joyful. Very different feeling. Very different feeling.
Very different. And that's why I always tell people to don't own that description. Like, don't say I am depressed. Say I am feeling sad right now, right? I feel sad is very different from I am this, because we are not our feelings, we are not our emotions, we are not our thoughts unless we put them on as I am. Right.
And it literally is the I am. Whatever you ask in God's name is granted. And Moses said his name was I am when he talked to the burning bush. So if that's true, then you anytime you say, and I tell people all the time, and they don't realize, like, I'll do these private sessions, and in the private sessions, we'll talk, and the whole time they're talking, I'm listening to their subconscious belief coming out of their mouth, and I redirect, and I do these different things, and I tap into this, and I always get a page of channel information before the session, but at the end of the session, I give them homework. I say, about 15 minutes, you're going to get the video of this. I want you to go back, and I want you to watch the video, and I want you to pay attention to everything you said about your present moment. And I make them look at it, because it's important for them to realize what they're actually saying and creating. Because if you don't step into the role of creator, then you're the created belief of your subconscious belief.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry, off on one of my subconscious.
And to me, it's true. It's so true. That's why everything starts with awareness. You have to become aware of what you're actually believing, because what you want and what you believe, if they don't line up, you're going to get what you believe, not what you want.
That's right, because God thinks in belief, not words.
Mm-hmm. And that's why when I first really stepped fully into this personal development train of mine, and I was back in the day when my kids were really little, and I was still married, and I was very angry and resentful, and I was also becoming more aware of what I wasn't happy about in my own experience, and the behaviors of mine that I wasn't happy about. And one of them was yelling at my children. And so I decided to stop yelling, remember? But for months I was putting my attention on stopping yelling, which is yelling. And so it was only when I switched the phrasing to speaking with loving kindness to my children that everything shifted, because what you put your attention on is what shows up in your life. What you appreciate appreciates, right? So whatever you are picturing in your mind is what you are creating. Who said, John, didn't we just have a guest who said something about becoming? So if you are becoming, what is coming is what you are being right now.
Right. Oh, that makes sense. I don't remember that, but we should go back and find out whether somebody said it so you can claim it or not. Becoming.
Yeah. Someone else said it. It wasn't me. They said, whatever you are being is what is coming. Maybe that was Ken Wilcox. I can't recall.
It probably was, because he was pretty brilliant on a lot of different things.
He was. So good.
So, yeah, I love it. I love it. Wow, we've almost gone
Wow.
50 minutes here. So
Yeah.
that's
That's
a
our
lo-
longest episode yet, I think.
I think so. I think so. I think so. Once again, before I hand it off to you to close us out, Tamara Zoner, I'd like to say thank you to our audience for all the attention and comments and love that you've shown us over the past year. It's been a year. How crazy is that? And once again, thank you, Tamara, for all your love and support that you've shown to me as well through my coming back out to my spiritual work, because I know that you are a huge part of that, and I 100% appreciate that as well. Okay, I'm going to hand you off to the close. Are you ready?
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, especially to those of you who are live, for really supporting us and showing up for us and for you. And John, I too am so grateful for you for pushing me out of my comfort zone, because we know all growth occurs where we are a little bit uncomfortable. So get a little bit uncomfortable, my friends, and watch yourself flourish, because that's what will happen. We're so grateful that you've spent this time with us, and we can't wait to see what the next year brings. And remember, you can find John over on his channel, John of New, where he's posting a bazillion videos a week. And you can find me on Tamara Zoner on YouTube, and I post 4 times a week, helping you love more. We will talk to you again next week. Until then, create yourself a most beautiful day. Bye, my friends.
Thank you for joining us at Spirit Cafe, a place where you can safely explore your spirituality without the guilt or dogma of religion. Leave all comments and suggestions on the Spirit Cafe podcast Facebook page.